Hello, friends, and welcome to Spiritual Friction, the show where real people share real stories. Each episode dives into personal struggles, growth, and the lessons learned along the way. From overcoming hardship and adversity, you'll hear authentic voices and inspiring stories of courage, hope, and determination. Join us as we explore what it truly means to be human. I'm your host, Laurel LeMohn, therapist and wellness coach. Joining us today is B. B is the founder and inventor of the Alinker walking bike, a non-motorized walking bike without pedals, and is custom designed to challenge society's assumptions about disability and mobility. She is also a composer of neuroacoustic brain entrainment music and is the author of her memoir, Inventing B. At the heart of her work is one simple but powerful idea. We are all human, and we all have a body. Our bodies may shape our experiences, but they do not determine who we are. She is the CEO and founder of the Alinker walking bike, and I'm honored to have her on our show. Thank you for joining us today, B.
Thank you, Laurel.
So I was watching your YouTube videos and your website and was inspired by the thousands of people who have been affected by your work.
Mhm.
And for those who are unfamiliar with the bike, I'd love to hear in your own words just the mission behind it and how it was created.
hmm Well, I think that starts with a with the story of my mother, who is since passed. But in 2011 or something, I walked with her over the marketplace, and she pointed at some people sitting there and having their mobility devices next to them, and she said, "Over my dead body, will I ever use one of those things?" And two things happened in that moment. One, she caught herself on judging those people as the others, the ones with disabilities. And the second thing that happened is that I realized that mobility devices, as we know them, are a technical solution for a body with a problem. And it emphasizes the disability. And then it creates a social divide between people with and without disabilities. And my justice sense got kicked into gear, and I was like, that is a justice issue. Why do we other people and emphasize the otherness? And it's interesting because and so I set out to design something cool that was actually like something that people would love to use, and something that would sort of make the divide, bridge the divide between people with and without disabilities. Because we can talk about sexism and racism. Those things you don't really change. I can't change this into black or into brown, and I can't change who I am into what I am born to be. But disability hits us all. Unless we drop dead immediately, we'll all face disabilities. I mean, it starts with glasses. That's a disability, although we don't see it as a disability because we make cool glasses and then it becomes a thing. So it was like, if I can do cool glasses, why don't we do cool walking bikes or assistive devices? And so, yeah, that's what I set out to do. And because we are not a body with a problem. The thing is, we're always, we've been conditioned to train on what we can see, all the exterior characteristics that we have. But I didn't do anything to have this skin color. I didn't do anything to be like, it's not an achievement of me to have a white skin color. It's more of a burden in this time, actually. But, you know, it's not my achievement. What is my achievement is who I choose to be. And so when we're trained to just judge on all the exterior characteristics, we become bodies with problems. And that creates divides. And hundreds of little segments that we have created in society that we now call minorities or underserved communities. But I don't think that's the way to treat humanity. We are a vast majority of diverse people that just want to be happy. And I can choose who I want to be. If I choose to be a kind person, then my actions need to be congruent with being kind. And so everything that I do with everything that I buy, living in a capitalistic world where consumerism is needed to run society, with all my purchases, I can decide who I want to be and what systems I want to support. For example, if I mean, it's not a very, very, how do you say that? Many people find it a very complicated issue. But if I would buy meat, for example, that's not a kind action to do. So I can't eat meat because it's not kind for the planet. It's not kind for my own system. It's definitely not kind for the animals. And so I only eat plants. And people find that very complicated to think about because, oh my God, I can't eat meat anymore. And because we've been trained to, consume. And we've been conditioned to be consumers. And with that, we have become very unkind, destructive creatures. And so that I can change. I can choose to be kind and then relate that to every action that I do, every purchase that I make. That is who I am. That is who I chose to be. That is powerful. That is where I'm also really powerful. And as long as we're divided in all those tiny little segments, we all feel powerless because I'm just fighting for my own little rights and you're fighting for your little rights, and we can't name enough minorities to not exclude anybody. So I don't live in that world. I believe that we are a vast majority of diverse people that just want to be happy. And that is based on the choices that we make in who we want to be, not what we are.
Yes. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. I know in my therapy practice, I don't diagnose clients because I don't think there's anything wrong with anyone, right? They
Mm-hmm.
don't need fixing. There's nothing broken with anyone.
Exactly. And the systems are not broken either. They're just differently motivated than supporting our wellness
Yeah.
as humans. And so to to go into the body
Yeah.
when our brains are deregulated because we're under all sorts of stresses. We look at the news of the environment, the forest fires and the ocean and like all that stuff is overwhelming, the wars. Our sympathetic nervous system is always activated and we're always under stress. We're not balanced. We don't get enough rest. We don't get enough deep sleep. And if our brains are deregulated, we 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 start giving signals of dis-ease because the system is not at ease. So we start giving of signs of dis-ease. But now we live in a system where the signals of dis-ease are diagnosed as a disease that then needs to be medicated. And then medication has all sorts of side effects. And as Jeffrey Thompson, the frequency guy, says, they're not side effects, they're effects on your body. And the effects have effects on the body, and then we need to medicate those effects again. That is a system that is purely based on making money and not supporting our wellness. So instead of, diagnosing the dis-ease of the body into a disease, and over 60% at the moment in North America, over 60% of people has at least one diagnosed chronic illness. Never mind the mental stuff that we're dealing with. And that all goes back to that our bodies, our minds, our brain is giving signs of dis-ease because we're not okay. It's not okay to eat, chemicals, processed food, meat that is processed. It's not okay to know that we're part of a very destructive system. We're constantly under stress. So instead of diagnosing that as a disease, I think that we should go back to understanding why the body gives signs of dis-ease So we are not a problem to fix. To add on to what you said, we're not a problem to fix. We need to understand how we actually work. And when you abuse this amazing system, because we're an amazing, like, unbelievable, I mean, this is miraculous, right? That we have a body that can feel and see and sense and taste and sing and think, and unbelievable. And we abuse it by, all the wrong things that makes this body give signs of dis-ease. And so we're not a problem to fix, but we do need to remember who we are and go back to what we actually are as divine creatures that need community, that need real food, that need to be acknowledged as human beings. Yeah. And not be put aside as, you're in that segment, you're black, you're disabled, you're transgender, all those things that were squaring people away, and then nobody is really acknowledged anymore for who we are in our souls. We are divine beings.
Yes.
And if we can remember who we are. But the thing is, I've recently become a certified BioTuner, and that is and also the whole story with the composition that you mentioned, brain entrainment music. It goes all like when we're constantly under stress and our sympathetic nervous system is always on, we can't recharge, and our reservoir of energy is depleted, right? The stress on the homeostasis, that we don't have a neutral homeostasis, is the stress that causes chronic illnesses. That is widely understood. Stress causes disease. So if our reservoir is empty and we don't have any energy, you ask people to change, it won't work, because the brain operates on two characteristics, two main principles. One, survive at all cost. And second, do as much as possible with as little as possible energy. The other thing about the brain is, you repeat things, it becomes the norm, it becomes familiar. What do you do when you have no energy? You gravitate to what's familiar, even if it kills you. But you do not have the energy to even think about something else. So with the Alinker, we've been, with that walking bike, we've for years now run into like the mindset of people's like, oh, that's too much work, because they don't have the energy. They're running on an empty battery. And when you run on an empty battery, you just hang on to what you know, even if that kills you, because you do not have the energy to even contemplate change. People don't want to change. Not because they don't want to change, but they don't have the energy. They don't have the resources available. And when you're beaten down by a system that dismisses disability, people with disabilities, you have no energy left. So if your reservoir is empty, then you need to just come and lay on my table, that I'll do a BioTune session with you, reset the balance, the synchronizing of the hemispheres in your brain, so you can slowly start refilling your energy again. And that is also the composition that I made. It's brain entrainment music. It works on the brain waves, and it sort of neutralizes the activation between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system, the fight and flight and the rest and digest. If they're out of whack, you can, for a prolonged time, this is activated, you can wait for chronic illnesses to happen. So you have to sort of balance the hemispheres of the brain, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system, to create that homeostasis where the body can function again. And then you can start refilling your reservoir. And that is what brain entrainment music does. So people listen to my composition and then they are like, oh my God, I can sleep again. I wake up differently, because I'm actually not just sleeping, but I'm also getting to deep sleep. And in deep sleep, there's very specific processes that only happen in deep sleep, that if you can't get enough deep sleep, and if you're not safe, you can't get to deep sleep, because in deep sleep, you're completely paralyzed. right? Your body completely shuts down. It's the hardest time to wake up because all those physical restoration processes are happening. So you have to be relatively safe to reach deep sleep. Most people don't feel safe. They don't reach deep sleep. And some of the processes that happen, you balance your cortisol levels, your hormonal levels. They neutralize. Your spinal fluids are flexing, so you detox the toxins out of your brain. Your short-term memory gets consolidated into long-term memory. Cell regeneration is happening. Your heart rate and your heart health gets regenerated. All that stuff only happens during deep sleep. And so if those two systems, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, are not in balance, your autonomous nervous system that tells all the organs what to do. I mean, we don't tell our heart to beat. We don't tell our lungs to. All that stuff is automatic, guided by the autonomic nervous system. If that is out of whack, nothing gets the right thing, and we're slowly getting into a chaos. That chaos is there's no homeostasis, there's no neutral stuff, and we get sick. And now the signs of that disease are diagnosed as disease, and now we're completely lost because now we're stuck in the medical system that just wants to medicate us, not to make us healthy, but to manage chronic illnesses, which is a money-making, revenue, profit-driving industry with the highest profits of any industry. It is criminal. And more than half of our children in schools are on medication for ADHD, for ADD, for autism, for all that kind of stuff. It's not a disease. The brain gives signals of dis-ease. With BioTuning, you cannot fix ADHD, for example, because it's not a disease. But you can rebalance and resynchronize the brain so the symptoms of dis-ease that we diagnose as ADHD don't exist anymore. It's a complete redoing of what we've been trained to do. And if you run on an empty battery, you're like, yeah, whatever. That's so complicated, I can't even think about that. I'll rather go to the doctor and get a fix. It's not a fix. We're not a problem to be fixed. We really need to change the narrative about who we are and how we treat ourselves, the planet, and each other. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And it's everything. My grandma always said, if you focus on a problem, all you see is a problem. But it goes one step further. We make symptoms of the system into problems that we then try to fix. But we forgo the fact that it's not actually a problem. It's just a symptom of the system that is not designed for our wellness. As long as we focus on the problem, all we see is the problem and miss the point that we actually need to reverse the whole thinking around that. Yeah.
And I'm curious, to go back to when you were walking with your mom and in the start of your company and of the bike, what were you met with much of adversity, or what was that experience like to start to model a different way of thinking, a different way of being?
People that are People always ask, like, who are your customers? And I say stubborn people, which is not stubborn as a bad thing, but it's stubborn. The people who not just swallow what the doctor says, not just swallow what the teacher told us, not just swallow what fucking marketing and all the ads on television tell us, but people that have learned to question things, have learned to question what we call authority, which is an industry. In many cases. And we have to question authority and see how they are motivated before we start believing them. When somebody gives me advice, I always look at who gives me the advice. Do I want to be like them? No. Why would I follow their advice? And the adversity that I was met with is of people that don't have any energy left. and they just dig in to what they know because that's all they know, and they don't have the energy to even contemplate change. That is the essence of what we're seeing out there as well. It is the stupidest um, thing that's ever happened in the universe, that we destroy the very environment that we need to survive. It's the stupidest experiment ever done in the whole universe. And why we don't want to change and can't change, because we're beaten to death. Our sympathetic nervous system is flat on its back. It can't even work anymore because why bother? That's PTSD, right? I think many people are in that state of PTSD, which is we've been so long prolonged on an activated sympathetic nervous system that it actually goes offline. And then you're completely out of balance. Your parasympathetic nervous system can't work either because it needs the homeostasis for both of them to work well. And if you're constantly under a prolonged, it's good to have a sympathetic nervous system that, kicks into gear when there's actual danger.
Right.
If I need to, Dr. Jeffrey always says, like, if I'm being chased by a saber tiger, it's very good that my digestion stops working, that my memory consolidation stops working, all that stuff, because I need all my energy to pump my heart and to get as much so I can outrun the saber tiger. We don't live in that time, but our sympathetic nervous system is constantly on.
Yeah.
By traffic noise, by wireless, by all the news, by marketing, by bombarding with chemicals. We're constantly bombarded with shit that our body is not meant to process. And so, we need to change the whole paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
And to make it as low, this is why I got into BioTuning, because how do you make the lowest threshold for people to make change? To start feeling better.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to get on an Alinker. That's people that still have some reserve left or have hit so much rock bottoms, like, because I've got a lot of people that tell me now I would have long been dead if it wasn't for the Alinker. So the rock bottom point of, like, I've got to do something because I don't want to die. That can be a motivation. Or what is the lowest threshold to offer people so they can just lay on a table, put headphones on, and start refilling their batteries. Once you start refilling batteries, it's like, oh my God, this feels good. Now I want more. Mm-hmm. Now, oh my God, I can breathe again. I can relax again. Once people get there, they only want to know more. Mm-hmm. And then they want to do more of that. Now they can start thinking like, okay, well, maybe I can cut out processed food and do a little bit more vegetables, do a little bit less meat, or cut out meat altogether because it's eating abuse. Right. At best. So the lowest threshold is just come lay on my table or listen to brain entrainment music. Mm-hmm. So your whole sympathetic or your whole autonomic nervous system can start to relax and start functioning again. That is essential. And if your brain is unsynchronized and out of whack and deregulated, you cannot meditate your way out of it. You have to re-sync the brain, sync the hemispheres, and make sure that the brain can actually operate this whole divine system again.
So it sounds like you've devoted a lot of your life work in helping people to come back to center, to feel aligned, to feel safe, to regulate their nervous system. And that as you've experienced your own life, you've kind of shed layers of really getting to the core of the issue of what is stopping people from being able to thrive, to be able to live their life fully. And starting with the bikes on mobility and now understanding the hierarchy of needs. And that until someone really comes back to center and feels safe and feels secure, that's where we start, right? And so now you've developed these different layers of work that you offer to your client, depending on where they are starting
Hmm.
to feel safe enough to be in this life, to be in this human experience, and to meet them
And
there.
that they're worthy of a healthy, happy life. Because we've been also conditioned to think that we're not worthy. Because unhappy and unhealthy people do what? They buy shitloads of stuff in trying to become happier and healthier. It's consumerism, it's capitalism. That's not what feeds our healthy and happiness. So I always say the biggest act of rebellion in this time is to be happy and healthy. Because I've seen the healthiest people, they can be quite disabled, but be healthy people because it's a choice. Health is here, is here. Health is not whether I, walk wonky because of MS. MS doesn't make me unhealthy. Being a person that identifies with MS, that is my disease, my MS. That makes you unhealthy because now you identify with something that is a disease. You are not a disease. Your soul is not guided by what this body can or cannot do anymore.
Right.
That's not a disability. The disability is like you don't see if I have legs or not. The moment I stand up and you see two prosthetics, you probably treat me differently. Why?
The condition,
It's
right? The environment, that's how, yeah.
because we judge on the exterior. We don't judge on who we are. Stephen Hawking proved that, he was one of the few people that was actually taken seriously, even though he was very disabled, but he was a very healthy man.
Yeah.
Because he chose to be a very healthy man and super smart. And, you can choose to be happy and healthy regardless of your situation. That is a choice. That's who you want to be. And so reminding people of that and creating a community around the Alinker where people are acknowledged for who they are, not what they have. That has changed a lot of lives. And I don't change people's lives. I just create a community that I need to feel healthy and happy in this life. And if that helps people, I always say, don't put that on me. I'm not your hero. I often hear that. So people say, oh, you're my hero. It's like, don't put that on me. You got on the Alinker. You changed your own life. Own it. You're powerful. And you deserve to be a happy and healthy person. And if we can do that for each other, it's just creating a healthy society that, resonates with who we are. If we can do that, then we don't need to buy shit to try and be happy or try and, fill my identity or something. Screw that stuff. What we really need is each other and showing up for each other and remembering who we are and becoming aware of the stories that we tell ourselves. Like if you look in the mirror in the morning and you look at yourself, what is the thing that you say to yourself? Oh God, I've got some wrinkles. Oh, I should do something about my... We tell ourselves horrible things. That's not who we are. That's putting myself down. That's telling myself things that I wouldn't tell my friends ever. Why do I do that? Why do I put myself down? Stare in the mirror and say, I like you. You're a good person. And make sure that who you choose to be and live congruent with that you can say that to yourself, I love you. I really do. And you repeat that enough times, the brain picks up on repetition and creates that as a new normal. So you repeat things over and over. And another thing about the brain is it doesn't care whether it's right or wrong, whether it's true or false, whether you're lying or believe it or not. The brain doesn't care. Repetition creates a new normal. Now you gravitate to another new normal when you have no energy, for example. Make sure that you create a new normal that is a happy place. And the brain doesn't give a shit whether it's true or false, whether you believe it or not. Repeat it, repeat it, repeat it to yourself. Create a normal a new familiar, because the brain always gravitates to familiar. If it gets low on energy, it always gravitates to what's familiar. You create a new familiar that's happy and healthy, that's where you go.
And it sounds like there's really a fire within you that's continued to come back to this and to narrate your story, right? And be aware of the language, right? Because it's so important, the language that we use, the
Oh my
words that we
God.
tell ourselves, that we don't say, I'm diabetic, but I have diabetes, right? That we develop distance between what we say and what we experience. And that,
Identify, yeah, don't wrap your whole identity in all those stories that we've been that's not who we are. Choose who you want to be. It's free. You have all the power to do that.
yeah. And it sounds
Mhm.
like there's really, come back to what you're saying again with your mom, that there's this power in you to continue to come back to center and be very intentional with what you say and self-agency, that you do, just as you don't, help others, you provide a community, but come back to center. Let people be their own agencies of change.
Remembering who we are. We are not consumers. Remember who we are. It's not that long ago. I'm only 62, and my grandma lived in a very different time. When I was 7, I got the first television that was black white in our home. I was the remote control. Can you put the second channel on? And I had to walk to the television to put the second channel on. I was the remote control to a black and white television. When I was 7, that's only 55 years ago. We have gone through such an incredibly accelerated consumerism bullshit story, and we repeat it enough, that becomes the normal. It's not normal what we're doing.
Yeah.
Stop buying shit. Stop identifying with anything else than being a powerful, beautiful, divine being. And actually, through the Alinker, through what I learned with the Alinker, I came to brain entrainment music and to composing brain entrainment music, because on the Alinker, you sit with your sit bones on the seat as you walk.
Mm.
And I started seeing things like that. How do I explain this? I could only explain it. It's like, oh, the brain gets activated
Mm.
because you complete the feedback loop to the brain and it gets activated. And now you repeat certain things. And people started recovering from things that the doctor said, like, just get used to the wheelchair and here's your medication. People that had been at home for 4 or 5 years had not left the front door, are out on their linkers, visiting museums, going to see friends, going to the park, going to the beach, going to like travel. I'm like, what the hell just happened? That's not just a bike. That's what it does with the brain. The bike helps your brain remember who we are and how it can function. The brain loves the work. We need to put it at work and understand how powerful we are in our own brain and with our willpower.
What was the
Yeah.
experience like for you building the bike and connecting that with the neural pathways? And did you start did you start off by wanting that to be the result?
I had no idea. I just wanted to make something that people would love to use, something cool. Just because I'm a shit disturber, and I was like, I don't want to have a technical solution for a body with a problem. We're not a body with a problem. I want to have something that people feel good with, that they can move with, that they can be at eye level with, to be, with other people, because in a wheelchair, nothing wrong with wheelchairs if you need it, but people do look down on you and dismiss you, miss you actually, run into the wheelchair, whatever, and don't treat you like you like you also lost your brain, because they start yelling at you, are you okay? It's really amazing. And so I set out to make something super cool.
Yeah.
And with that, I'm also hoping that the awareness comes, like, oh, you're a person with disabilities, that the awareness to how we treat people with wheelchairs also changes, because it is ridiculous what we're doing and how we treat each other just because we're at not at eye level. Well, anyways, so
It's
that
very
whole thing.
significant, right? That
Yes,
even sometimes when it's intentional or it's unconscious, just the physical fact of looking down at someone
yes,
and the message that both parties internalize in
yes,
doing that.
yes. Yeah. And internalized stories are huge because as a woman gender we I've got all sorts of internalized stories of that I'm not good enough, that I'm not this, that I don't fit here. That you have to undo all those conditioned stories because I'm just me.
Right. I
And I'm unique as you're unique, as every human being is completely unique. Let's celebrate how unique we are.
yes.
Unless you're an asshole that does horrible things at the expense of other people, then you're just not a kind person. It's a whole different issue. That's not based on how you look,
Right.
what your exterior characteristics are. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
And all
so,
those mental illnesses these days. Let's stop call that mental illnesses.
right.
Let's start calling the industries the big diseases that we're dealing with. The meat industry, the pharma industry. Let's call those the big diseases because they are.
Right.
They're meant and they're making money for us to be sick over us being sick. And in the meantime, we destroy the planet that we need to survive. It is the dumbest experiment in the whole universe. Can we just change that? Can we just remember who we are and change this ridiculous situation in which we just create trauma upon trauma upon trauma? It's not okay. This is not healthy. Let's do something fun together and choose to be kind people and have that reflect in all the actions that we do. We have that choice. We're that powerful. That reminds me of the story when I was 5 years old. My father died when I was 8, but when I was 5 years old, he asked me a question. And for some reason, I remember that question because it was so powerful. And I still don't know why he asked me that question, but he said, what do you do not to go crazy if somebody locks you up for something that you think? What do you do not to go crazy if somebody locks you up for something that you think? You know, my thought as a 5 year old was like, my thoughts can be that powerful that somebody would want to lock me up for that? Wow. My thoughts are my thoughts. Nobody can take that away from me. Ever. I am powerful. I can make that decision who I want to be. There might be repercussions from people that don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. At least I'm congruent with myself. I am my authentic self.
Yes. And
And
you,
I have to learn how to be authentic because that word is way overused. We have no flipping clue who we authentically are until we undo all those conditioning stories. And then maybe we might discover who we authentically are. But that's a path that once you start getting some energy again, listen to my brain entrainment music. It's really fun. And you start getting energy. It's like, oh, now I can,
ooh.
let's do fun stuff together. Why not? I mean, let's celebrate how unique we are, and then we change our reality. When the reality changes, the whole world changes. Not that I want to change the world, but we are the world. We can change ourselves. That is so powerful. And then when we get together on podcasts and inspire other people to like, oh yeah, I can, look in the mirror and tell myself how much I love myself and repeat that to the point that the brain all of a sudden is like, oh, there's somebody to love there. Now I feel better. My whole world has changed because I am projecting my reality inside on what the outside is. If I focus on all the drama that's wrong in the world, I perpetuate all the drama because I'm part of it. I'm projecting that to be my reality. Stop projecting bullshit.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean the thoughts that you had, right? That you have the self-agency. You have the free will, the choice. You knew that when you were 5 years old.
that was that was incredible, actually, that he asked me that question, because what he actually did is made me aware how powerful our thoughts are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he taught me how to play chess and took away the board after a while. So we played chess, passing each other by in the house, giving each other the next move.
Mm.
And when I was interrogated in the US Embassy in Afghanistan, in Kabul, because I was actually building schools with the fathers who needed the schools for their children. And I was paying them instead of international contractors, because that's how the industry works, right? So they interrogated me because I had to be associated with Al Qaeda and Taliban and whatever. I had to be a criminal because I was actually building twice as many schools for the same budget. But I was proving something that they didn't want to have proven. As they interrogated me, I was playing chess in my head and they had nothing on me. So my father prepared me for that situation. They had nothing on me. They could have tortured me. They have nothing on me because I held my truth
Yeah.
and I was just playing chess in my head. They had no power over me.
Right.
How did my father know that he had to prepare me? Didn't do that with my two brothers, but with me.
Mm. Did you have a special connection with him?
We still have.
Yeah. I'm sorry that you lost him in human form.
Yes. And it taught me massive lessons in life.
Mm.
And I am who I am because my father died when I was 8. And I've learned those things. You can, and again, there's the choice. You can lose your father when you're 8 and be like be the victim of that situation, or learn from it.
Yeah.
How does it change me? What do I do with that to move forward? And that's a choice. Do I want to be a victim? Do I want to hold myself and grow? Everything that we go through is an experience that we can learn from or feel victimized by. That's a choice. We choose the victim role. We now have an identity that is wrapped up in being the victim, and you perpetuate that. Now that's also what you radiate out, and you probably find more and more situations that will affect you negatively because that's what you radiate out. Change the inner story. And that's a lot of work. So you first need to resynchronize your brain so you can start balancing and release the stress and relax your system. And it starts with your autonomic nervous system. Relax that. And brain entrainment music does that.
Right. Do you primarily work with people in person, or?
I've done Zoom meetings, and I start Zoom sessions again in September. My composition is 7 parts. It's actually a whole internal journey of 7 hours that starts at the root chakra, remembering who you are, to the sacral chakra and up. And every story has, or every part has a guided meditation, storytelling-ish thing in it that guides you through the whole inner journey. And I will restart 7 weeks of that series in September again, so people can be on Zoom, have headphones on, because the music is designed that your right ear hears something else than the left ear. That is what actually syncs your hemispheres when your brain is entrained, not entertained by a predictable melody line or rhythms, but by 2 different inputs. Like if I've got 100 hertz here and 104 hertz here, my brain is like, what's happening? There's a difference. And it starts oscillating at 4 hertz. 4 hertz is high delta, is deep sleep. So when people listen to a track that has the 4 hertz binaural beats in it, they get into a deep relaxation, even when you're awake. If you repeatedly listen to that music, your brain starts thinking, I guess we're safe because we're in delta. And so when you create a new normal, that the vigilance that you had in your whole life because of abuse in your whatever, that story, you keep repeating that story. It keeps being the vigilant story. Even though that situation might have changed and you don't need to be vigilant anymore, you keep repeating that story. Therefore, you're always activated. You listen to that music, you repeat the music with the 4 hertz, for example, or 3 hertz, or half a hertz, or anything in delta or in theta. And slowly, like there's a whole process that you take people through that their whole autonomic nervous system can calm down. And then you create a new normal. It's like, I guess we're safe enough to get into deep sleep. I have somebody in Washington actually who never slept more than 7 minutes of deep sleep. And when you got those sleep apps and it sort of tracks the sleep cycles and whether you reach deep sleep or REM sleep or whether you're in light sleep or, she never got more than 7 to 9 minutes of deep sleep. She was heavily depleted, was on all sorts of medication. Her whole body was a chronic soup of illnesses. And she started using the Alinker because she was one of those people like 4 years inside her home, didn't see friends anymore, highly depressed. The whole works, and it's a downward cycle from there because you can't get out of that. So she got on an Alinker and was like, holy crap, I can see my friends again, but I feel still not good. Then she started doing Eat Real to Heal. We offer Eat Real to Heal. Nicolette Richet does Eat Real to Heal 6 weeks courses, and we offer them. We actually help pay for that, that people can learn about what real food is versus the crap that we put in our bodies that make us sick, and demystifying all those myths that we've been taught about food. So she started doing that, started losing 60 pounds, reduced her medication, and then she's on this music now, and she reaches an hour and 40 minutes of deep sleep per night and doesn't recognize herself. She's like, holy crap, I feel completely different. I used to sleep 12 hours and I was still tired. Because if you wake up tired, you don't get enough deep sleep. That's an indication of that. When you get deep sleep, you need about an hour to 2 hours as an adult, deep sleep per night. If you're anywhere between 1 and 2 hours, you're good. Then you can restore enough. She can restore again.
Mm.
She wakes up. She doesn't sleep 12 hours a night anymore. And she wakes up alert and like, oh, a new day. Hello. And she's lost a lot more weight. And the weight is never the problem. The weight is, again, it's a symptom of underlying conditions. So when the symptoms start easing away, the weight can also just shed. You don't have to do weight loss programs. They're all just focusing on a problem that is not a problem. All of that. Our language around problems is problematic because they're not problems. They're symptoms of a system that uses us to make money.
Yeah.
So decide who you want to be. Do you want to be a consumer? Do you want to be a powerful individual that is kind?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What would you tell the listener today if they, maybe they're still on medication, they're not sleeping well, they're, still struggling with their weight. They don't know where to start.
Mm-hmm. Contact me and I'll hook you up with the right music. And if you're in this area, or there are other BioTuners that you can find all over America, it is really something. And Dr. Jeffrey Thompson is the guy that I studied with for the last few years and are certified with his patented system. He is a pioneer for 45 years, 50 years now or something. He actually he discovered most of this stuff, which is now more and more mainstream that you can talk about. And he is a true pioneer on that whole body of work. Researches dramatically, and it's all scientifically underpinned work right now. There's research programs on PubMed. You can find all this stuff that it's not just woo-woo because people say woo-woo. So, no, it's not. It's actually how our brain works. And medical institutions or universities start acknowledging that stuff that they started unveiling and discovering in the 70s, 80s. becomes more common knowledge now. Neuroplasticity was something that we didn't even know about 10 years ago. And, and it becomes more and more mainstream. It's like, oh, the brain wants, oh, the brain doesn't, oh, we've got different delta, we've got different brain waves. Like, oh, we can influence this. Like, whoa, and the more it becomes mainstream and people learn about this, the more we can, change that whole narrative around problems, diseases, medications to giving our bodies the input that it needs. So yeah, I'm always open to talk to people. I can get people to just listen to music, to that specific music, but talk to me first, or go on the website of Jeffrey Thompson. I've got a website, flowwolf.biotuning.com. My email is b@thealinker.com. People can reach me. Please reach out. And the lowest threshold to make change is to listen to music with headphones. $100. Get headphones. Get fucking headphones. It's the lowest threshold, and you'll be shocked how much it will change your life. And then don't focus on stuff that are not problems. Don't focus on trying to lose weight. It's not a problem. It's a symptom. Go to the underlying stuff.
Yeah.
Go to what we feed our body, mind, and soul. And then you'll actually spend a lot less money. Because people always say, like, oh, healthy food is so expensive. It's not. Look at the expenses, all the medical expenses, and your well-being of life. What that cost is of that all.
Right. Right.
Or you can start listening to music, start refilling your reservoir, and then slowly you can start making choices. And we're here for all of it: mobility, food, frequencies, all of it. We do everything with the Alinker. Because if I would just be selling bikes, shoot me now. I'm looking for somebody who wants to take over that part of the business, because I don't like the selling part. I want them to be available for everybody who wants them for free, because we know that it will make money.
Right.
But that's not how the system is motivated. So we're an outlier company. Interesting, huh?
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, please email me and I can talk you through stuff. I'm always available to talk with people. Being acknowledged as a human being is one of the things that makes us feel crazy and not existing when we don't get acknowledged. So call me, email me, get in contact. And I'll offer you the lowest threshold of something that will actually start making you feel better.
Going back to sound, going back to music.
We are vibrations. We are 70% water. See what vibrations do to water. We are water. Anything that I say is sound waves, acoustic sound pockets that I project on you. If I say, I love you, I love you, I love you, your body changes. I can change your physiology just by the intentional different sound waves that I give you. Then I say, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. That changes your physiology as well, because we are water. So to be mindful with your words, be always kind to people. You don't need to agree with each other, but you don't need to hate each other. And if you love your enemies, you're still true to yourself, because you're a loving creature. If you start hating your enemies, you give them the power to change you. Now you're a hateful person. Don't give them that power. Stay in your loving core, in your kind core, if you choose to be a kind person. You can not change the world, but you can change this world.
Right.
And with that, you resonate something else out.
Yeah.
Right?
And then it does change the world.
And we really need to, because this is great. But we need to start. It's not outside. The problem is not outside of us. We, as conditioned consumers, we are the problem. We perpetuate that system. We say we don't like it, but I still eat my chicken and da da da. And so I am the problem.
Right.
right? And to start feeling that, really deeply feeling what we're part of.
Yes. It starts with us.
It starts with us. So email me, call me. I'm open. I'm really always for people that are willing to challenge their conditioned stories because they feel like, yes, I am somebody else than this shit that I was made to believe. Call me. I'm always open.
Mm. Thank you, B.
You're welcome.
I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're alive during this time and that you are holding this space. I think that I think the world needs more people like you.
We are all people like that.
Right.
We can all be that person. We just need to make that decision and then meet on who we chose to be. We are all that powerful. And so in that way, thank you too, Laurel, for being there and choosing to be who you are.
Mm. Thank you.
I'm very hopeful for the future.
Yeah. And things are moving very quickly. And
Yes.
so,
Depending what you focus on, project
yes.
your own reality,
Yes.
the future that you want to see. And then we're very powerful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.